Hello and welcome to part 4 of my Elden Ring walkthrough series. Today we're going to be, well, accomplishing a lot, starting with Fort Haight. So I went ahead and I switched to the short spear just so that everyone can kind of get a grasp on what it's like to have a different type of weapon. The short spear definitely doesn't stagger enemies quite as well as the battle axe, but you do get a little bit more range, and I feel like it's a little bit faster. So starting off, I come right over here to take out this knight first, the good old-fashioned 1v1, just because there's a lot of enemies here, including a pumpkinhead, which we just defeated a boss, pumpkinhead. But then I'm going to go ahead and sneak around behind this guy here. I'm going to get this critical backstab for lots of damage. So that backstab attracted this guy. We'll go ahead and take him out. This guy's totally unaware, so we'll sneak behind him. Sweet. So now entering this fort area, there's a lot going on and a lot of potential for things to go wrong. There's dudes that throw these little fire bombs at you like that, and there's barrels everywhere that are explosive. These are the ones. There's also a bunch of rats, so if I try and stop and take out one of these enemies, I'm going to get overwhelmed and flanked from different directions from all the other enemies. So I'm just kind of running around and picking my targets as I go. So this knight that I've aggroed to me, he's a contender. He's got the big shield, so you know. But I think he has a really unique weapon art as well that should be watched out for. See, I've got this guy by himself so I can kill him. See if I can take out a rat. But then this one comes up to try to flank me. So that's kind of why it's useful to always be moving. At least in a situation like this, you don't want to get stuck in one spot. Mostly because they'll put you in a corner or something like that and then start ganking you, so. Backstab on this guy, but now I've got these rats coming, so I'm gonna go ahead and retreat for now. A tactical retreat. Alright. So this is a nice little open area up here that I can probably take the time to spawn in my soldiers. I could have done it before, but I didn't want to risk them getting overwhelmed too, so I wanted to kind of thin the herd of enemies, if you will. Okay, go ahead and get revenge on this guy for throwing those fire bombs at us. They took care of that rat. And where's the big guy? There he is, okay. Once I killed this enemy, it'll be pretty much smooth sailing from there. My guys go ahead and take aggro for me, allow me to get this critical. Oh sweet, new helmet. Dope. Alright. I enter this room guarded just in case. Okay, so I think the objective is to completely clear out this fort So I'm going to go ahead and take out any stragglers out here, and then I'm actually going to work my way back into the fort itself, because I know that we've got the guy on the ballista turret to take out. So kind of how I mentioned striking their helmet does almost nothing, just did that. So hit him with a couple R2s, perfect. So here is the first half of the Dectus medallion that we receive. It's going to be a giant lift that moves us on into the next area, but I'm actually not going to be using that lift to move on to the next area, because I have a better way. Okay, and with that guy, I believe we've taken out all of the enemies here, so Kenny's quest should be good to go. I'm going to go ahead and check around the fort just to make sure there's no items hiding behind or around it. So all in all, there was one mushroom and then a few earthleaf flowers, but nothing too important you can't find anywhere else. So we'll go ahead and mark Kenny on our map. And then we'll travel to Mistwood outskirts.
I did you before. Well done. I knew it now. Go ahead. Right there. What's that lower? And even the which is why just you.
And Kenny just needs some muscle, so he's going to ask you to enter into his service.
Very well. I knew it.
I've never said no, so I'm not sure what that does. It'll probably just give you the dialogue option over again, and he'll say something like, "Oh, you reconsidered?" Okay, I think we should go collect the lantern. Oh, but first, let's go ahead and level up. Yeah, I'll go with strength this time around. I'll go ahead and update our physic. Now if you look above us, there's that big old boy right there. He's gonna jump down and try and attack us. Ooh, and I honestly did not expect that to stagger me, but it's okay, because we got the torrent. There aren't really many items back there, so I'd just recommend running through. There is a gold seed right here. I'd forgot to mention it in the last video, but there is a gold seed at Fort Haight as well. So we're going to work our way around this way, because if we follow the road, it actually summons some wolves from the sky to ambush us. They're not really a big problem or major threat, but they're kind of more annoying than the runes that they're worth. Go ahead and light this here. There's an NPC back in this little shack here. So we'll exhaust her dialogue. Anyone a fan of Paul Wall? We just got the sitting sideways gesture. Okay, so we've exhausted her dialogue, and now we'll go ahead and head toward the merchant that sells the lantern. So this is Godric's castle here, and whenever I first came upon it, I thought that it was the only way to progress, but if you come around right here and kind of hug this area, you can actually completely bypass his castle and move on to the next main area of the map, which is what we're required to do in order to get the lantern. So there's a finger reader here. I'm honestly not sure if speaking to all of them has any value or purpose. I feel like they just kind of give you some really vague hints about the game. Nothing extremely important that's, going to be a game changer of information. If you hadn't noticed, this game, there's not a lot of hand-holding or explanation outside of the little tutorial messages. But we'll go ahead and kill this silver scarab. Alright, and then once you work your way back up this rock here, just continue to head west and hug the wall. It's really the only direction you can go. There's a few packs of wolves in the area, but we'll just run right past them. And congratulations, you just bypassed that whole legacy dungeon. So we'll head down to this church here to get another sacred tear, as well as meet a new NPC. He's also a sorcerer, so he can sell you spells the same way that Selin does. Donate him the 10 runes just because 10 runes is hardly anything. His sorceries cost literally 100 times that much, so. And he'll inform you about getting a glintstone key, which is required in order to gain access to the academy within this next area. And I'll show you how to get it as well. So there's kind of a lot of higher level stuff in this area once you kind of progress through it. And I'm just going to run past this little camp, collect that cookbook. I think there's like a crafting item somewhere in there, but there isn't really anything of other value other than the cookbook. But as soon as we purchase this lantern, we're going to go ahead and head back to the previous area.
You're surprised you've no matter. Why don't
Okay, and I'm low on souls. I forgot that it was that much. Is there anything I can sell? I like to keep the Ashes of War for testing purposes. Can sell that dagger that Kenny gave us, but let's see. Okay, I guess I'll go ahead and return to that camp I was just at. I'm 600 souls away from being able to purchase this lantern, so I guess we're gonna go clear out the camp anyway. Starting with this guy. Yeah, the spears are kind of fun to use. Definitely a different experience than the axe that we were using. Much better range. That Ash of War, or weapon art as I keep calling them, it almost seems like it just staggers people almost instantly, or at least these weaker enemies. Let's see. Let's try to test it out. Yeah, so he got staggered. He got staggered. And finish him off with an R2. And I think, like I said, there was like a crafting resource in here somewhere. Is there? I thought. Oh, I see it. Yeah, it's right in this little tent. Yeah, 6 smoldering butterflies. Okay, so now we have enough runes to go purchase the lantern. And like I said before, it can be somewhat advantageous from a practical standpoint to just kill all of these merchants and then bring their bell bearings to the Twin Maiden husks at the Round Table Hold. But I'll keep them alive for now. So we'll go ahead and quick slot that lantern just so that we have quick access to it anytime we're in a cave. And here you can see kind of how bright it is in the daytime. I'll do another demonstration in a cave. And might as well get this map piece while we're over here, just because it's really close by. This map piece in particular is guarded by these pesky enemies. Sometimes they can prevent you from reaching it, or they just block you in time. They're very well placed. Okay, so I can't open my map just yet because we're still in conflict. So I'll go ahead and try and find the nearest site of grace, because I know there's one nearby. There we go. Perfect. So as you can see here, that opened up a huge chunk of the map. So you can kind of start to get a little bit idea of how big of a map we're working with. But it does get much larger. So there is a silver scarab down this road. I don't really need it right away. So instead, I'm just going to make a beeline for the site of grace. Kind of ignore all of these enemies over here. Just because there's quite a bit. They're not too challenging to take out, but... Okay, site of grace. I'll rest before those guys get me. Spend that sacred tear, and then Margit the Fell Omen boss fight is right through here. He can be a little challenging, especially for your first time fighting him. So I'll go ahead and show you where a unique item is located before we fight him that you can purchase. It's not a completely necessary item, and I honestly have never used it in the boss fight, but I think it like prevents him from moving, and I think you can either use it 3 times or you can use it once or something during the first phase of his boss fight. I don't quite remember. And honestly, I don't think I've ever found this side of grace before in any of my other playthroughs. And that kind of speaks to the volume of depth in this game. Every playthrough I've done, I've always found new unique things or caves or catacombs I've never been to, or new sites of grace, occasionally a new NPC. But we'll go ahead and activate these catacombs down here real quick, visit the site of grace. And now we'll go ahead and make our way to the cave. So this is that little wind vortex I was referring to in the first part of the walkthrough. It's got these jumping puzzles. And you can obviously jump super high and take 0 fall damage. So once you're forced off of Torrent, that's kind of a moniker for when you're being invaded. This is an NPC invader equipped with the Reduvia dagger, which deals blood loss. But our friend Yuria, who we spoke with earlier, will actually come and help us. You know, I've been saying Yuria, it's actually Yura. But we'll go ahead and meet him a little bit further down this way. That way he can kind of help us take aggro. And I believe he also spawns in regardless of whether you spoke to him previously or not. Alright. GG. Okay, so now we can enter this cave over here. Find patches. Go ahead and equip my lantern so that you can see much better. So there is a trick to this dungeon here where there's a trap and you can choose to avoid it if you're observant enough to notice it. You know, now may be a good time to try and show you how to work multiplayer. So we'll go use our FFR, or Furl Calling Finger Remedy. And that's a little strange. Usually there will be summon signs right there by the effigy or by the side of grace, but I'm not seeing any here, which is kind of strange. So I'll go ahead and nullify the effects, and I'll run in here and I'll show you what happens if you do hit the trap. So there's a little wire with bells. You can kind of slightly see it right there. And then all of a sudden all of these enemies come out and they're aggro to me. They also throw those like instant poison pots, which is pretty OP. But we're not too worried about it. Ooh, unless we get stuck here by the rock. Okay. So I'll heal. Kind of looks like they're not able to get up this area. So as you can see, if you set the trap, you're in for just a really sloppy performance while they try and gank you. They're usually all hanging out right down here, and as you see, there's those explosive barrels. So if you do have a fire pot or any fire related anything that you can throw at them, they'll explode, and they're kind of useful. Every once in a while you can use the opportunity and kill a few enemies that way. So yeah, here's a good look at them, and you can kind of see exactly how they work here. Literally just walking through them rings the bells. So now I'll kind of show you the difference between stumbling upon the trap and avoiding it. Okay, so we'll come right in the center here. Kill him with an R2. This guy's coming out. Oh. So see, they're all just kind of hanging out here. So that would be a good opportunity to throw a fire pot with those barrels. So I target the one in the back, and that way I also hit the one in front of me as well. Kind of a useful little trick. And I'll go ahead and heal. Patches isn't that difficult of a boss, and he's a very cool character that appears in most of the Souls-like games in some form or another. Like almost every From Software Souls game that I'm familiar with. Almost, not all of them. So we basically just stole the dude's clothes. So it's a battle of the spears here. He's got that little toxic breath. Obviously you don't want to be in it. And it's such a fitting attack for Patches. I think once we get him to half health is when he resigns. Begs you not to kill him. Which you totally could if you wanted, but I'd recommend just keeping him alive. He can be useful. And he keeps you on your toes. It's kind of funny because in every game he betrays you at first, and then he becomes your friend or helps you out with something. So we get a gesture from him as well.
I knew you would. You're a man of reason. True and true. Well, what do you know? Now, how did I get that wrong? I took you for a demi-human or an innocent mistake. Well, water under the bridge. Now we're squared up. How about we...
So I chose forgive and forget, but I think if you say some things can't be forgiven, I feel like he actually gives you an item or something like that. I know in Dark Souls 3 he gives you an emote. So okay, we need to reload the area in order to get him to sell goods to us. So we'll make our way back through the cave, back to Patches, and we'll avoid the traps and honestly just run past the enemies as well. There's a few collectibles like cave moss through here if you want to pick them up for crafting.
Well, nice if you're all a bit welcome. You won't need...
So I'll go ahead and sell these runes. Give me a little more purchasing power. Ask him about those bandits back there. Kind of an interesting background story.
It's the same old story. Well, just something I'm saying.
So we'll ask him about that other chest in the corner there. It seems very fishy.
Everything is give and take.
And most of his goods are pretty overpriced, but if you look here, Margit's shackle, this is what you can use in the boss fight against Margit, and I believe it like throws him to the ground and stuns him for a brief period of time. I'm gonna go ahead and purchase the cookbook. You don't really have to focus or prioritize on purchasing them just because sometimes it's better to focus on leveling up.
Well, well, well. I should have known, you scheming thief. The gods demand vengeance! Vengeance!
So he teleports us here, and because we just entered a trap, we're not able to travel to any sites of grace until we rest at one. And this is a location that we're already familiar with, so obviously don't aggro the bears and you'll be fine. So now if you want, you can return to Patches, and I'm sure he'll have some sort of interesting dialogue for you. I don't really need to go back and visit him, so we'll go ahead and start this boss fight. Go ahead and level up first. Very good. And I'll go ahead and switch back to the axe because it deals a little more damage. Kind of short range though, and that might get the better of me. This is an NPC summon who you can summon for help. If I remember right, he's not the best. I'm not even sure if he can heal. So we'll go ahead and test him out, see if he's of any use. And we'll go ahead and use this blessing for added poise and to get our health back.
Foul tarnished. In search of the Elden Ring. Emboldened by the flame of ambition. Margit the Fell.
Well everyone, it's apparent I'm not qualified to be providing you with a walkthrough of this game. I still need to get good. I'm not that good. That boss totally wrecked me. I'm feeling defeated. And I just really don't want to attempt it again, so this is probably the end of my channel. Or is it?
Why isn't there an easy difficulty?